Now my friend Don Zimmer sends an email. I've been looking for a formula I ran across in one of Roy's publications a couple years ago that calculated the average cost to reach a radio listener with a commercial. It figured out to be about 1 cent to reach a listener. Can you help me find the article? Signed, Don Zimmer. Now, Don and his brothers and I have a little bit of a history that goes back more than a decade to a time in Kansas City. I'll tell you the story and then I'll talk to you about what it is Don's looking for in just a moment. But first, the P.S. Say hi to Roy for me. Did he see that John got the Radio Wayne Award for Best Broadcaster of the Year? That's Don's brother, John Zimmer. John recognized Roy in his acceptance speech. Also tell Roy we can still outdrink him. Okay, here's the backstory. Kansas City, about a little over a decade ago, Kansas State Broadcasters Association, there's like 800 people in Kansas City in this big meeting room, and they're all sitting at tables. And I had arranged, to have dinner for the first time to hang out with the Zimmer brothers. And there's a famous steakhouse in downtown Kansas City. It was only walking distance from the hotel. And after a very memorable event where a guy stood up at the back room, a short little man's been pissed off about it his whole life, he started shouting and it was funny and we got into a little altercation and I got banned from ever coming back to the Kansas State Broadcasters Association. I could have apologized and spoken again, but I just chose not to. I'm a bad human being. Anyway, those guys were still willing to have dinner with me. And we sat down at this steakhouse. And like a lot of great steakhouses, they bring over the wine menu, and it was a very extensive wine menu. I was really impressed. I'm going, wow, these people really know their wines. And I'm looking at some of the stuff. I can't even believe some of the wines they have here. Part of me said, they're not going to have that. They're going to say, oh, well, we're sold out of that. But I decided to test it to see if actually they were going to have one. And so, they usually bring dinner menus for everybody, but just one wine menu. And so Don Zimmer hands me the wine menu because he goes, and I looked at it and I picked one. And then the waiter comes over and he says, what do you have? And I named the bottle of wine. And then Don, he grabs the wine menu and he says, and he ordered a bottle and then he handed it to his brother, John, and John ordered a bottle. And I looked at him, I said, did you not like my choice? And Don looked all surprised and he said, well, that's your first bottle. We ordered our first bottle. And I'm going, oh my. I think maybe it's good that we're within walking distance of the hotel. And I find out, I have a couple of friends like that I've made a mental note. Never get in a drinking contest with these guys because they can drink you under the table and then drag you down the sidewalk by your heels. They didn't actually have to do that, but it was that kind of evening. And we had a great time. And so I'm going to try to track down whatever video there is of the Radio Wayne Awards, because if anybody deserves Best Broadcaster of the Year, it would be the Zimmer brothers. And the fact that John got it is news to me, Don, and I'm thrilled that he got Broadcaster of the Year. And I stipulate completely and absolutely submit that you can both outdrink me. Now, Sean Taylor is going to send you a copy of the article, I think the one you're looking for. I wrote it for Radio Inc. It's called A 25-Year Secret Revealed. Now, everybody else who would like to have a copy, it's a PDF file of a long article I wrote for Radio Inc. It was published, I don't know how long ago. And I said, you know what? We use a completely different metric for buying radio advertising than anybody in the world. And it's one that we have conjured, and I can defend emphatically, and I have defended at the largest advertising agencies in the world and some of the largest corporations in the world, including Procter & Gamble and J. Walter Thompson. And when I was at the Detroit office with Kevin Brown, was the general manager at the time of the largest of the 200 plus J. Walter Thompson offices in the world. That's where they handle Ford Motor Company and Domino's Pizza and Kellogg. And at that time, Ford alone gave them over $1 billion a year there at the Detroit office. And so it was the biggest branch office. And I actually talked to the media buyers and I said, look, gross rating points and cost per point are bad math for buying radio. You need to calculate cost per person per year. And if you'll send Sean at wizardofads.com. Sean at wizardofads.com. Sean, S-E-A-N. Send him a note, ask him to send you the PDF of the Radio Inc. article that Don's talking about, and boom, he'll shoot it over to you at some point today. Now, in a nutshell, we have a metric, and the one thing that we won't do is settle for less than a 3 frequency in what's called a diary measured market. And that's the old Arbitron methodology, where you fill out a diary over a period of weeks and then blah, 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 and they calculate it. And then they have the new personal people meter. And the personal people meter is a little electronic device, kind of looks like a cell phone, and you carry it in your pocket, and it knows whether or not there's a radio playing within earshot, and it knows what station it is. It knows what frequency it is. And so what you think you did today versus what you actually did today, totally separate things. Now, it's a loose estimate, but it seems to be that using the new personal people meter ratings, and not all markets are rated that way today, but soon they all will be, using the PPM ratings, you only need about a 2.5. And that idea of a 2.5 is on a diary, they took a 3.0. The ratings are gathered and calculated and, conjugated a little bit differently in the math with the personal people meter. And so we've had to make some adjustments. And so we'll settle for a 2.5 frequency each week. And we're going to buy the same typical week, 52 weeks in a row. Let me say this super, super plainly. If you're trying to make things happen quickly, then a 3 frequency or a 2.5 frequency in 1 week is not likely to get it done. If you're trying to make things happen quickly, there's no such thing as too much repetition. There's no such thing as too much frequency. If you can get a 5, 6, 7, 8 frequency in 1 week, do it. If you have the money to do it, do it. Because something isn't news, something isn't urgent, something isn't important unless it is repeated with a lot of repetition. So if you need to make it happen quickly, don't scrimp on the repetition. But if you're going to be there for the long haul, if you're going to be there 52 weeks a year, a 3 frequency within 7 nights sleep, a 3 frequency every week, the identical same listener hearing the identical same ad 3 times in 1 week, and you want to do that every week for 52 weeks. That's true being the company people think of first and feel the best about. It's true branding. Now, that's the non-negotiable for us. If we can't afford a 2.5 ppm or a 3 frequency in the diary every week for 52 weeks, we don't buy the station. So once we've established what we're going to call the typical week, the same schedule runs every week, 52 weeks a year. We have what's called cost per person per year. And we can always, with 2 exceptions, there's 2 cities in America where radio is very expensive. One's on the West Coast, one's on the East Coast. It's not Los Angeles and New York. Los Angeles is a super friendly radio market, as is, well, to a lesser degree, San Francisco. And San Diego, super friendly radio markets. It's a medium-sized town that's very awkward to buy. And there's another one in the New England states. It's a reasonably, not a big town, medium-sized town, that's also very expensive. But with the exception of those 2, we've never failed to buy a 3 frequency 52 weeks a year, every week, 52 weeks a year, so that, loosely speaking, if the identical same listener hears the identical same ad 3 times a week, or the same advertiser 3 times a week, 52 weeks a year, that's like 156 times a year. A person's going to hear this ad loosely 156 times a year for $1 per person per year or less. Anything above $1 per person per year, we walk away. Sometimes we'll get it for a lot less in some cities for $1 per person per year. And we do believe that radio is a commodity. That pisses off a lot of radio reps. Sorry. But we're going to buy mass media to reach the masses, and we're going to target not through the selection of the radio station, we're going to target through our message. We're going to target through the copy. And when you say the right thing, it's amazing how many people become the right people. And so you were right, Don. If we're paying as much as $1 per person per year, that's the most we ever pay. That's like, we hate to pay that much. If we run out of money and never get above 72 cents per person per year, and it was 72 cents and below, and they got all the budget, tough. The guys that was at 73 or 75 cents per person, he didn't get in on the deal. Why? Because everybody else wanted the money a little bit more. That's how we make our decisions. Now, it's not a penny per person per repetition. It's way less than a penny per person per repetition. That's the good news.